Everyone, welcome back to another episode of Paddlers Are You Ready? My name is Shou again. Today I want to talk about a concept or a misconception about leadership that I've held for years about what's important about being a leader and about being a coach. And so for years, I thought I was being a good leader or I was being a good coach when I inspired my team. I made these like big grand speeches. I got people hyped up before the race, and I thought I was being a really good coach. I was being a really good paddler, and I was being a good leader. But then when I was reading the Talent Code, which was the book that I introduced to you guys in the last video, I recognized that there's a difference between leadership and charisma. And so in the book, The Talent Code, he talks a lot about John Wooden, which was a world renowned coach of the UCLA basketball team back when they were basically winning championships like many years in a row. So they kind of had a dynasty. So The Talent Code, which was this book about why people are so good at what they do, highlighted a lot about what John Wooden do to make his team really good. And so the author of this book got to spend a little bit of time with John Wooden at the first day of practice for their season. And so going in, he was expecting John Wooden to be this really charismatic person, this movie leader kind of person. And so he went in and thought that first day of practice was going to be this big grand speech, and that he was going to be inspired. He walks in. John Wooden turns out to be this really quiet, reserved person. Starts practice just by saying, "Hey, welcome everybody. My name is John Wooden. I'm going to be your coach this year. Let's go out and have a good practice." And they went out for practice. There was no grand speech. There was no talk about last season, how we're going to do better this season. There was none of that. It was just let's get down to business. So the question was, well, what made John Wooden so good? What made his team win so many championships? And so the conclusion that the author came down to was that his players, John Wooden's player, were just damn better than everybody else. So then what was John Wooden doing differently if it wasn't the inspiration, if it wasn't the motivation to get all these players to be so damn good? So he followed him to the practice. What he found was that John Wooden was giving feedback to his players left and right all the time. That the one thing that made John Wooden such a different coach for him, the author, was that he just made every single player knew exactly when they were doing the right thing and exactly every time when they did the wrong thing. And so every player went through practice knowing exactly when they were doing the right thing and when they were doing the wrong thing, because they were getting called out every single time. Whether they were doing the right thing, they would get called out. If they were doing the wrong thing, they would get called out. So they had built this kind of knowledge of when I'm doing well and when I'm not doing well, because their coach gave them that much feedback. And so what made John Wooden's feedback, what allowed John Wooden to give so much feedback, was the idea that he gave feedback in, on average, 7 words or less. And so how does he do that? He just gives really snappy, quick feedback. And the author found that he gave feedback in this very specific form. And it was, do this, don't do this, do this again. As in, if he wants them to tuck their elbows in a little bit when they're shooting, he would say something like, tuck your elbow in, you're flaring it out, make sure you tuck it in. Something like that, where it's short, sweet, and to the point. To the point where, towards the end of the season, when they have, played basketball with John Wooden for a year now, he would be able to say something like, elbow in, not out, elbow in, something like that, so that he keeps the number of words short. And the whole point of keeping it short is so that he can give more feedback. And so the main takeaway here is that the amount of feedback really matters, because the amount of feedback dictates whether your paddlers or whether your athletes know if they're doing the right thing at the right time. And so there's amount of feedback, and there's also in-game feedback, as in, as they're practicing, are you giving them practice feedback then, or are you giving them feedback later? So on our team, once we learned this, it was kind of a game changer. And so we thought a lot about how we can give more feedback, how we can give more in-game feedback, how we can give feedback more concisely, and things like that. So we thought a lot about it, and we tried a lot of different things. One of the things that we early on talked about was like how many feedback should you give per minute, and we really strive to see if we can like give 3 pieces of feedback every single minute. Now, of course, we're doing that with different fidelity, and we're able to do it some days, and some days it's really hard. We also thought about how can we give at least a couple of pieces of feedback per person per practice. Because if you imagine, if I'm going through practice without having being told whether I'm doing a good job or a bad job, I might tend up, as in I might get better and better. I might also tend down. I might also get worse and worse. There's no control over that. So the idea is, how many feedback am I giving? How many feedback am I giving per person? And we started realizing how hard it was when we were focused on it. When you're first becoming a coach, you're just kind of giving feedback whenever you feel like it, whenever it feels good, or whenever it feels bad, or if somebody is an eyesore, that like they definitely stand out, you're going to give that person a feedback. But once we started adapting this kind of mindset, that we need to get every single paddler to be better by giving every single paddler as much feedback as we possibly can every single practice, then it became like a really big difference in where are we placing coaches. Because if I'm standing right just in the front, there's only so much I can see. If I'm standing just in the back, there's only so much I can see. So how do I situate myself, maybe even at different points of practice differently, so that I can give as much feedback as I possibly can? The other thing that we learned is we're not giving enough good feedback. As in, if somebody is doing a good job, we just kind of like let them be. We just let them be doing their good job. And we start realizing that as the team got better, we're giving less feedback. And then so the idea was, wait, why are some of our coaches not giving a lot of feedback? And then when we talked to them, it's like, oh, it's because, well, they're doing pretty good. And we said, well, then why aren't you telling them? So the idea is, whether it's bad or whether it's good, they need to know. Because if they are doing a good job on accident, they need to know, oh, whoa, I figured something out, so that they can do it again the next time. So yeah, that's it. That's the kind of idea that I wanted to share with you guys today. We definitely learned this a little bit back when we started reading the talent code. So again, for any sort of aspiring leaders or coaches out there, we really recommend doing your research, going online, trying to find different tools and different ideas to learn and to become better leaders and lead your team. Because we really believe that that our community can only succeed if each and every team succeeds. And so if you want your team to be better and you want to be a good leader, you have to go out in your comfort zone and actually go and learn these things. So yeah, again, the book is called The Talent Code. And the coach that he talks about was John Wooden. There's tons of books about John Wooden as well. Encourage you to read those and see how he led UCLA's basketball team to be so good. And if you like these ideas and you want them to keep coming, then give us a thumbs up. If you really like these ideas and you want to share it with your teammates or other people, go ahead and make sure that you share these, and subscribe. And see you guys next time. And yeah, see ya.